And as you continue to subject them to 000,010,10, Covd Tax was introduced because government needed to politicians are friends. Yes, we have friends across the political divide, and I have many friends. I've been in politics from 1996 when I stood for my first parliamentary election. I met many colleagues in parliament, but the call to root out corruption and to punish people who have misappropriated public funds is a call from the soul of the nation. It is a call from the soul of the nation that for once we must put our foot down, because the youth are crying for opportunities, and the youth are losing faith in our democracy, and the youth are tired of being unemployed and hungry when they can see that the public resource that belongs to all of us is being corralled and squandered by a few people. And so if we don't do that, a time will come when some things will happen. There are two things that can happen. If people lose faith in our democracy and that faith is going down, the last survey, it said it had gone from 74% to 50% of young people believe in our democracy. And so their faith in our democracy is going down. And as you continue to subject them to 000,010,10,001, a time comes when they have no interest in the survival of the state or in the survival of our democracy. And in West Africa, normally what would happen is that a coup d'etat will take place. But in East Africa, civil unrest will take place, like we saw recently in Kenya. And so it is a cry from the people themselves that the political elite must get it right. This is our last chance at saving our democracy, and it cannot be business as usual. And that's why I've said that the greatest fight against corruption is not prosecuting your political opponents. It is also dealing with your own people when they indulge in the same thing. And so I've said it several times that yes, we'll hold the government that is going out accountable for the things that have happened. We'll investigate them. We have a constitution, we'll go by the rule of law, prosecutions will take place, judgment will be given. And so that will do. But while you're doing that, if your people start indulging in the same thing, you must have the courage to punish them. And that's why I've said, if people want to come into government and make money, then we can help you. You go into the private sector, we'll help you set up a cassava processing plant, go and process cassava, employ young people. Don't come and take public office. Once you take public office, you must be prepared to be held to account. And so, yes, we might be friends. Sometimes it's painful. And I have an example. Abu Gapele is my friend. The National Youth Authority, himself and others were prosecuted during my tenure. I was not happy to do it, but I mean, one has got to do what he's got to do. And so, yes, we'll pursue corrupt officials and we'll deal with them. And when we're dealing with them, if somebody does the same in our administration, that person will also be dealt with. So I've sounded a warning. Everybody wants to be a minister, a CEO in John Mahama's administration. If the Office of Special Prosecutor comes after you, you are on your own. I'm not a clearing agent. I will not clear you. So let me go to this side. Give the microphone to the young lady.
Please, my name is Belnado Leboche. I'm from Ablekuma South. I would like to ask my question in Ghana.
You.
Me qualify. Nonimi Bambariana is about security services. Here lies the case. I'm not security services. Join qualification. Me big question ha in your me here na me here qualification. For Papa, me no buy no fake because I'm a passion to do the security job. They have the zeal, they have the power, the manpower is there. She not me here qualification. I'm a dog protocol. But I pay 150. For Papa, me no buy no fake one. What I remember the security service. Now me one man. Oh you are done.
Oh, you are done. Oh, you are done. Oh, you are done. Let me explain. Let me explain. Even if you have your own business, yeah, your own business you own, some amount of education is important to run your business. You understand? If you go to the security services, and I know when NPP came to make it easy, they scrapped the qualification for their people to go in. Today, as I said, there are police officers who can't go on duty in the station because they can't enter the station diary. I mean, Agma station diary me po. So ko te noya ha complaint. Enye engma beja eyache wa a colleague komi ake bile ake mineke engma ohami. You understand? So I can understand. The point is, we do so at our own risk. There are many other areas in which we can recruit our people who do not have a qualification. And so let us not say because of that we'll scrap every standard. At least they have tempered down the mathematics qualification. But English reading and writing, I'll encourage our young people, you should be able to read and write. And aside from that, there are many other places. You see, why everybody wants to go into the security services? Because there's no employment. Because if there were other areas that we could employ our people in factories, you know, working as technicians in factories, because even if you cannot read and write, you can be trained with your hands to be a skilled factory worker. But it's because there's no work in the factories that everybody wants to be in police or immigration or something. And that is why we want to revive the economy of this country. That is why we want to build more factories, so that all our young people in Jamestown and Bukom and everywhere, we can take them to go and work in Tema, in factories and other places. And so there will be some minimum requirements to be able to enter the services, so that at least you are functionally able to carry out the duties that you are given. And so thank you very much. That's the answer to your question. Let me come this way. Yes. Let's see who. Okay, the one sitting by. I'll come back to you, okay?
Thank you very much, His Excellency. My name is Prosper Agbesi Amlade. I'm an entrepreneur. And I have two questions. I've heard about you.
Let's try and make it one each so that we can cover more people.
Okay,
but
thank you.
You ask. You are the last to ask two questions.
Okay, thank you. I have heard and I've listened to your 24-hour economy. And what I want to know is that how long would it take for this policy to start rolling out? Would it be like the free SHS as promised and was rushed within the first 6 months, and then we are witnessing the challenges even as at now? Would it be like that when you come to power? And then my next question would have to be on taxes. There has been some taxes being paid by the Ghanaian people. One of them include Covd Tax, which it's been 2020 since COVID came, but we are still paying Covd levy or Covd Tax as of now, but we are not seeing what is happening. Are you going to abolish that, or it's going to continue? Do you have a policy about that? And then the NHIL levy, yes, I know it covers hospitals and healthcare and the national health insurance. However, when you go to the hospital, you realize that there are certain drugs that are not covered by the NHIS. You go to the hospital and they give you paracetamol, amoxicillin, and the rest. But other drugs, they refer you to go and buy them at the drugstore. Do you have any policy that's going to strengthen the NHIL or NHIS policies to ensure that the average Ghanaian people can access health care and the rest? Thank you.
Hey, you've asked virtually 3 questions. Smuggled two questions. Okay. The 24-hour economy is not going to be one night event. It is a process, and it's voluntary. On the part of government, we have what we control. For instance, we can ask customs to start a process of working 24 hours because customs is a state agency. We can ask the ports to work 24 hours so that people can clear their goods at any time in the day or the night. Anything to do with state agencies, we can do 24 hours because we control that. With regards to manufacturing and businesses, it is voluntary. You cannot go and compel people and say, by this date you must start working 3 shifts. So you have to give them incentives. And those incentives will be to give them maybe low interest loans so that they can expand their production and take on more people. It could also be in the form of tax waivers so that they have less taxes to pay, and so they can plow that amount of money into expanding their production. It will also be finding markets outside so that they can engage in export trade under the African Trade Continental and Free Trade Area, under the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, under our agreements with America in AGOA, under our agreements with the EU, so that we can improve our exports based on an increased demand. And so it's not going to be an overnight thing that it would happen like a flashbang, but we will start the process. And it is our hope that we will go far within the 4 years, and any government that comes can continue the policy and go and run with it. Ghana is the only country I know so far that is being taxed for a pandemic that has passed. We who suffered and were the victims are being punished for a pandemic that came and went. We survived the pandemic, and they say, no, you must pay tax. And so Covd Tax was introduced. But let me tell you, Covid is a value-added tax. And the Covd Tax was introduced because government needed to increase revenue. Now, let me explain to you. And that's why when somebody comes and he says, when I come, I'll abolish these taxes and so on and so forth. The question you ask him is, why don't you do it now? He cannot do it now because this government has agreed with the IMF and added Covd Tax as one of their revenue handles. It's part of the IMF agreement. And so, as part of their agreement with the IMF to increase revenue, they've locked Covd inside. And so if you come and you want to take the Covd Tax out, then it means that the IMF bailout, you have not been able to fulfill the agreements with the IMF. And that is why he says, oh, vote for me. When I come, I'll remove this tax. But the question is, if you could remove it, you do it now, but you can't do it because you've agreed with the IMF that Covd Tax is one of your revenue measures. IMF has asked you to increase your revenues to a certain percentage of GDP. by 2028. And so far, you are at about 15-point-something%. You are nowhere near the 24% they've asked you to increase it to. We are saying that we'll rationalize those taxes, because there are other areas in which we can collect taxes. There are other areas in which we can expand the tax net so that we can take those obnoxious taxes out. One of the taxes that is not performing is e-levy. E-levy, they said, will solve every problem in this country. Unfortunately, e-levy is not performing well. It's bringing in just about 1-point-something billion cedis. And so some of those obnoxious taxes, you can substitute them. For instance, property taxes. We're not collecting property taxes well enough. If we're collecting property taxes, we'll get maybe 10 times what we're collecting in e-levy and in Covd Tax. And so those are areas that we want to look at. Apart from that, let's spread the tax net. I live in my house. Every day, electricians come and work, and I pay. Plumbers come and work, I pay. Air conditioning technicians come and service my air conditioners, I pay. And they charge quite meaningful sums. One day they brought me a bill, and I said, maybe I'm in the wrong profession. If I was an artisan, I mean, you're charging me 5,000 for just this. So if me too, I was repairing people's things and I was getting 5,000, 4,000, 2,000, 3,000, maybe I'll be earning more money than the profession in which I am. But when you pay, who takes tax from that person? You must find a way of spreading the tax net so that when you pay him that 2,000, at least he too, some 100 cedis or 200 cedis will go to government. And so how we can spread that tax net is what we are apprised of. And if we're able to do that, it will reduce the tax on everybody, because then we can throw away all the other taxes that are killing business and making it difficult for them to get, for people to get employment. And then your last smuggled question, NHIL. NHIL has a list of drugs that it is supposed to cover. And the list of drugs cover the basic sicknesses that are allowed on the NHIS. Unfortunately, it's not working properly, because even the normal claims that the facilities are putting, NHIL is not refunding those claims. One, because government of Ghana has capped the NHIL. There's something they call the Capping and Realignment Act. And so any statutory fund that reaches a certain percentage, the excess money goes into the contingency fund. So NHIL is not getting the full amount that should go into it. So they are finding it difficult to recompense the health facilities for the treatment they are giving NHIL card holders. And so because of that, they also cannot provide the drugs. You are lucky if you go and you get amoxicillin. You are lucky if you go and you get analgesics. You are lucky if you go and get cough syrups. In some places, they just let you see the doctor, write a prescription for you. You go to the pharmacy, they say there are no drugs, and you have to go to the outside pharmacy to buy it. And so when we come, we will uncap the NHIL so that the full amount Ghanaians are paying as National Health Insurance Levy will go into the fund, so that we can reimburse the hospitals to be able to give the treatment that they are required to give. So thank you.